Last time on Growing Lilies. Lily gets more convinced that someone is behind all this. She thinks it's two people even. Entity A, who erased everyone and all the stars, and Entity B, who is helping her, and whatever the fuck star is. Since Lily is suffering from the hand wound, she decides to take it easy for a while. And that means Star training montage. It's not really a montage because Star just seems to understand every command incredibly fast. So instead, it's time for Lily training montage, which means more magical glyph investigation. She manages to delve deeper into how it all works and even creates her first spell. Well, if you don't count the mana explosion that she made earlier. Later, she wants to look something up on the internet, but notices that it's more or less dead. Twitch is still running for some reason, and she watches a live stream from when everyone disappeared. The streamer just vanished. Nothing else. Because of this, she started to feel depressed again and decided that she wanted to go home to her old apartment. It was mostly just rubble left though. She climbs on top of it and falls down a hole with a magic circle inside. Since she can't climb up, she has to figure out a way to use magic to escape. Chapter 21. Star didn't understand. His master and charge had descended into the wet death hole for reasons that eluded him. He had carefully paced and guarded the perimeter for hours, and she had yet to return. Surely, she must have a reason to be there. Is this Star? We're entering Star's perspective. God's perspective. No. I think we can drop the whole Star as a god. Even though I said it. So I don't want to drop it. But still. He was aware of the master's great potential, but she was small and weak. Like a newborn pup, she must be protected until she can grow into her power. Heavy though the burden may be, Star was up to the task, or so he thought. She had left him here to wander in danger, and he was helpless to come to her aid. He cursed his weakness. On the wind he could smell water and blood. The scent was still fresh, so he knew she must be alive if wounded. Was this a test of his abilities, his willpower, his desire to protect, or was this a test for his master? He didn't know. But since spending time here, the thoughts had been coming to his mind clearer than they had in their shared den. Maybe that was the purpose of being here. He let out a howl, hoping she could hear it and know that he was trying to rescue her from her self-imposed danger. If only he was more powerful. If only he could jump high enough to make it up to the top of the building carcass. He would join her in the wet death hole, and they could find a way out together. But he could not jump high enough. He could not climb. He would have to find another way up. He would not fail his master. He would not let one so defenseless succumb to carelessly wandering into danger while in his care. Star had been howling for a while. It was cute and heartbreaking at first, but it had long since gotten to the point of becoming an annoyance. He must be circling the outside, because the howls were coming from all different angles. Wish I could tell him to just sit tight. Lily had been laying next to her fire for about half an hour. It was hard to tell exactly how much time had passed in here without her phone working. It didn't seem to be smashed, but it definitely wasn't turning on. She wondered if she could repair it somehow if it had gotten waterlogged. She thought it was supposed to be water resistant, but in fairness, that had been a lot of soaking. In the time she'd been laying here catching her breath, Lily had realized two things. First, in order to get out of here, she was probably going to have to modify the spell here rather than wholesale creating her own. She had limited energy after all. Secondly, something weird was happening, even by the standards of magic. She could hear things occasionally shifting around beyond the walls, just slightly. And sometimes she'd catch something moving a little out of the corner of her eye. It was creepy, and she was trying very hard not to totally freak out. She wasn't sure how much of this was just paranoia, but she could swear the room she was in had also changed a little bit while she had been here. She couldn't quite put her finger on it. Some of the places where there was paint seemed like they might be more vibrant somehow. Some of the rubble might have changed shape a little. It was such a small difference. It could have been a trick of the light. Nevertheless, if things were shifting, she didn't want to be in here if the ruin collapsed any more than it already had. So she had to get moving soon. She just wasn't sure where to begin. She could draw one, maybe two spell circles of her own in mana if she needed to. It would exhaust her, but she had the ability now. That wasn't enough energy to experiment, and she didn't want to use blood again if she could avoid that. Even if she could find a way out of this hole, it was starting to be a resource game. She had to find a way out in so many moves or less, not just find a way out. That was why she had taken some time to sit and think and catch her breath. Which brought her back full circle. She needed to modify the existing spell rather than making a bunch of her own. She even thought she had a pretty good idea of what she wanted to do. One of these glyphs was taking the water and air and pushing it up into the sky. Another was probably making sure it stayed localized. Yet another was causing the pool to flow in a circle. She had a working theory. The arrows pointing inward were keeping the air and water localized. The one that was shared in both circles was probably causing the water to move at all. And the last one? Well, she wasn't sure what the last glyph did. If her theory held out, it was changing the direction the push glyph was pushing the lazy river in to make it a circle. But she didn't understand why, or the details of that. So in an ideal world, she would create a circle that would push the slab in the center of the room up, and ride it to the top. There were just about a million problems with that. First, if her reading of what the glyphs did was off, then it might not do anything or something unexpected. She didn't want to be riding a huge piece of concrete when it decided to spin in place or roll like a ball, or even if she was right, shoot into the sky. Beyond that, if she did choose that glyph, and she was wrong, the wasted mana might be so much that she collapsed. Even if she wasn't wrong and it rose, what if creating the circle wiped her out so much she wasn't able to jump from the floating concrete to safety? There were so many issues, but it's not like she had any other plans. Option number 2, as she saw it, was to fill this area with enough liquid for her to swim out. But while she was generally an okay swimmer, she didn't have any idea what kind of current she'd be dealing with. Not to mention, water is heavy. What if it shifted things in a way that crushed her? It was too dangerous, even compared to option number 1. No, she had to just do it, starting with part 1. She had to return to the central slab. As she gathered herself to enter the thigh-deep, cold pond again, though, something startled her. A sound. A loud electronic sound. Her phone! Oh my god, yes, phone! Alarm? She pulled it out of her pocket. It was turning on? It had played a loud startup sound and was now sitting at her lock screen. That was weird, but at least it was working. She took a second to unlock it. Yeah, everything was still there. Great, now you're working, when I don't really need you anymore. Thanks, technology. But it was strange. Had it just dried out on its own? And then she hit the power button by accident? That would be a big coincidence. But there was no sense fussing about it now. If any strange alarms came through, though, she was going to scream. Me too, of excitement. Lily lowered herself slowly into the depths. It was so cold. But that wasn't the end of the world. She waded over to the central slab, passing by her little created flame that was still sitting on the surface of the water. She had expected the flame to go out at some point, but she guessed the mana here must be strong enough to last it a while. Pulling herself up onto the slab and out of the pool was actually pretty difficult and took a few tries. She managed with perseverance and finding the right footholds. Lily heard another howl outside. I'm on it! Just be patient! Okay, what now? Well, first things first. She wanted to stop the rain. It wasn't really doing anything to help her, so she might as well start there. She focused and found the innermost circle, and thought about breaking it, making a cut so that it wouldn't form a full circle anymore. She felt at it, found the exact point she wanted to break, and snapped it. At first, nothing happened. She could tell that the circle was broken though, so she waited. After about 30 seconds, the rain started to let up, and Lily let out a sigh of relief. Okay, that helps a lot. Now for the rest of this thing. There was still an updraft, but that was good news too. It meant her read of the second circle was probably correct. It was still gathering air and pushing that upward, so now she needed to disable the glyphs she thought were condensing things, and hopefully the updraft would continue. She felt out those 2 glyphs in the circle. It was already getting difficult to focus. This work was so tiring. But just as she was getting ready to erase those nodes, the rain started back up. What the hell? Star howled from outside. Lily rolled her eyes. Why was the tiny torrent back again? She could swear the spell shouldn't have any more water to work with. Lily grumbled and found the spot she'd broken before. It was fixed. Huh? Is it self-repairing? How did it do that? Frustrated, she did her best to clear her mind and sever the circle again. Then she turned her attention to erasing the 2 glyphs that she didn't need. The directionality of the wind changed slightly, but it was still pointed upward. That was more or less confirmation of what she wanted. Plus, the rain was starting to stop again. Lily was sick of getting poured on. Better stay gone this time. Now about this lifty glyph. Can I point that at this rock somehow? Lily couldn't see how to change what the glyph was targeting, but at the same time there had to be a way. Maybe it was a setting, like the capacitor volume. That seemed likely. Intention seemed to matter a little to these glyphs, so maybe she could make an edit. She was already feeling a little unstable. Water started pouring on her. Goddamn fucking fake storm! She glared upward, and a drop hit her directly in the eye, even around the glasses. Oh. That makes me so frustrated. Whenever I'm out and it's raining, it's like, I have glasses. They can't even protect me. Please. Or the few times it happens that a bug flies towards my face and it gets stuck on the inside of my glasses, and then I'm panicking because then it's like it's stuck in a tiny little box with me and I want it gone. She shook her head and made a groan of annoyance. Okay, this was getting annoying as hell. Lily gritted her teeth and found the water collection circle again. Sure enough, it was whole again. Something was repairing it. Or someone. Fine, if you can repair something broken, let's make it not broken, huh? Huh? Is that good enough for you? Magic room? Rather than severing the circle again, Lily decided to get creative. This time, she removed a segment of the circle, but rather than leaving it broken, she drew something new. A small bracket shape on each of the ends, as if it were intended to stop there rather than being cut. There. That's how it's intended to be. It's not broken, you hear me? It's perfect the way it is. She waited a moment. The downpour started to diminish again. Good! Stay that way! Lily caught her breath for a moment. As she did, the girl looked around the room again. Who? I assume Lily would... Okay, she could swear there were differences, but they were subtle. It was really starting to bother her. But she might as well be sure there weren't any tools she should be using while she was too tired to do more spell work. A lot of broken concrete, a thigh-deep pool, and some burned-out detritus. Although the burned-out garbage was looking... Was it less burned out than before? She could swear that the broken TV had been covered in scorch marks before, and the fridge was more melted than it looked now. Am I getting in my head because the circle keeps getting fixed? Although... She took out her phone. It was still working. Was there a magical effect repairing items in the room? She couldn't see anything like that, and if so, it was working really slow. Like glacially slow. Glacially. Shrugging, Lily turned on her flashlight and shone it around the room to get a better look. Was any of this trash usable? There was a lot more junk floating around in the pool than she had been able to see with just her 2 flames workings. A lot of broken trash, mostly. She could see the melted remains of what was probably an entire silverware drawer. A lot more rebar along the bottom than she was comfortable with, having waded through it twice now. Nothing looked immediately usable though, but just as she was about to give up, something drifted into view. A door. A whole door. Step through it. It was made of wood and perfectly unburned. That was weird. But it was one of those thick doors that usually blocked off utility closets and the like. That could actually be useful. She could ride that to the top instead of something as heavy as the concrete. It would require a lot less energy to move, right? Or would it be less stable? If she had to jump off of her ride as they got to the top, would it having so much less mass matter? Well, she would keep it in mind if she couldn't find a way to power her concrete elevator. As it drifted past, she wondered how it had survived the fire. Even if it was repaired after by the hypothetical repair spell, some part of it had to have survived, right? It had a little metal placard on it. Maybe that was it. Maybe the rest had been repaired from that. That seemed like a stretch, but oh well. The little placard read basement, so it had probably been on the ground level. Maybe the magic storm started before the fire was through. Lily decided she was procrastinating. It was time to see what she could really do. She decided she was going to draw a spell of her own. It'd be no problem. Gather ambient mana and the push spell pointed upward. She drew it around the concrete slab in the middle of the room. A simple 2-node magic circle. That should be easier than one of her flame spells. She was scared, but putting it off forever wasn't going to change anything. She plopped down on the concrete and went to work. The design was easy enough. A circle with a square in the middle of it. On the two opposite sides of the square, 2 nodes. One with gather ambient mana, the other with push. While she wrote in the latter, she focused as hard as she could on what she wanted it to do. Push upward. Move up. Float the stone. Make it rise! The circle completed as Lily felt the mana leaving her body. She was getting used to that sense the more she used it, but that didn't mean it had any less of a devastating effect. She slumped over on the rock, wheezing. It was like the spell had sucked the life out of her. She could barely move. She struggled but couldn't even sit up. But even worse, nothing was happening. That couldn't be right, could it? She let herself relax onto the stone, trying to catch her breath, and examined her spell. It was working! Mana was running through it, but nothing was happening. Why was nothing happening? Then she realized. The other spells! They were taking a lot of the mana too. She had to disable them and just hope that her lift spell would work with more energy. She was still having trouble moving, but she had to do it. She closed her eyes, laying face down on the rock, and felt out the other spells in the room. All she had to do was erase the way they were getting mana, and they'd go right out. Turn those nodes into empty nodes. One by one, the other spells in the room went out. First, her 2 flame spells. She was surprised that the light didn't completely go away. The moon was overhead, shining down into her hole. She could still see. Just not well. That was a stroke of luck. But she wasn't out of the woods yet. Next were the circles that were already here. She knew better than to break them, so she just focused on disabling them. She was past the point of exhaustion and into pain. It felt like she had to tear the mana out of herself to even be making modifications to these circles right now. But if she used up all the magical energy in this area without getting out of here, it would be over. She erased the last glyph. The stone she was on lurched. Lily felt a surge of hope. But it still wasn't enough. It wasn't moving. It had just shifted. Lily wanted to scream and cry. Fine. If that's not enough, don't think I'll give up yet. I'm not dying in a hole. It hurt like hell. She didn't care. She reached out one more time and changed her spell around the rock. Gather ambient mana and infuse material. She'd use the rock as a battery, and when it had charged up enough, she'd swap it back and get out of here. Mana started flowing into the rock immediately, but as the upward force on it diminished, the rock shifted again. A horrible groaning sound came from under the room Lily was in. Uh-oh, that didn't sound good. Then it hit her. Basement. There was a basement. There was a floor under this one. How was she always one step behind the things she needed to survive? She wanted to scream in frustration and terror, but she forced that emotion down. No giving in to panic. Absolutely not. The rock shifted some more, suddenly sinking by about a foot. But mana was pouring into it. The power was gathering. Lily could feel it. She just had to find the balance. She had to swap it back before she fell through the floor into the basement of certain death, but after it had charged up enough to float. That was easy enough, right? Right? Lily's heart was pounding out of her chest. She was finally starting to feel like she could move her body. But she didn't dare. She couldn't risk unbalancing her precarious situation. Is this a mage's house? Is there magic stuff in the basement? I mean, technically, Lily would be a mage now, isn't she? And this is her old apartment, so in a way, a mage lives here. Finally, she thought it was worth a try. So she reached out to change the spell. Nothing happened. She focused as hard as she could. It wasn't changing. She reached for mana in herself, and it wasn't there. She had nothing to pull on. She was depleted, but she had to change the spell. No, not like this. I can't die in a hole. Please work, please. Please give me anything, just a little bit, please. But nothing came. There was another groaning sound from beneath her, and she heard the pool around her start to drain into the basement below. Phone? Mysterious helper? Entity B? Anyone? Please save me. I can't do this. I can't survive on my own. Please help me. Help me. Her voice echoed through the room around her and sounded mocking in her ears. Help me. And that same voice that was always with her, from deep down. As if you deserve help. You're pathetic, and this is just what you deserve. You should have disappeared with everyone else. She felt the tears welling up in her eyes as despair overwhelmed her. Star to the rescue? I hope so. She heard another howl from outside. This one sounded closer somehow. No, that's stupid. Shut up, voice. I don't need you. I don't need some mysterious helper. I'm going to live through this. I'm not going to die so easily. I might be a cockroach of a person, but cockroaches are hard to kill. This is more intricate magic system because it explains everything, so it's not weird. It's hard for you to understand. Lady Roach, right? Lady Roach, hello? Yeah, I think that's it. And it's like, I'm also new to the whole web novel things. And otherwise, I've read a lot of books, but not about systems or stuff like this. Like, I've read Harry Potter, a little bit, but I've watched the movie. It's like, but I've played games, so I know what's happening, sort of. But going so deep into it, it makes me like, I don't get it, so I'll just it's there, I understand what it does, and that's enough for me. I don't need more. I get it, the outcome will be the same even if I understand it or not, type of thing. I understand the gist of it, and to me that's enough. I'm not interested to delve deeper into it, or I don't have the need of understanding. I like when magic is explained more than when it's not. Then it's perfect. And it's I don't mind that it's being explained. It's just if it isn't explained in a way that I don't understand them, it's okay, this is what it is, but I can understand and enjoy everything else. And I also think it's early story and it will get easier as story goes, maybe. Yeah, I think so as well. I hope so. A manic energy flooded through her. Her fears evaporated. It was either do this or die, right? Then it didn't really matter how crazy she got, did it? Danger. What's that? The concrete under her was starting to vibrate uncomfortably. It was too full of mana. Good. Let it be full. What's one more bomb in this scenario? She fumbled with her bandage, trying to get it off, but wasn't strong enough. Well, whatever. She bit the fleshy part of her thumb as hard as she could. It hurt. It hurt so bad she could hardly think, but she didn't let up until the taste of blood rushed into her mouth. She spat and got to drawing. A simple 3-node circle. She drew it on the back of her good hand. Gather ambient mana, a capacitor turned as low as possible, and infuse mana. She'd done this before, and it had been a huge mistake. But what was a mistake now? All she had to do was use the mana as fast as it poured into her, right? It was like electricity. If she was going to grab a live wire, all she had to do was give it an exit from her body that didn't burn her up too. The moment she felt the mana start flooding into her, she pressed her palm down against the concrete under her and shifted concentration to her lift spell. She had plenty of mana now. Too much even. It was time to draw. Instantly, she swapped her spell so that it was drawing the mana from the rock and using that to power the push spell. The concrete lurched upwards. She was almost tossed off of it. Grabbing on for dear life, Lily added a capacitor with a high volume and got ready to tune that as the stone began to rise. She had to maintain a good speed. Not too fast, not too slow, and without running out of mana. Easy. Sure, why not? Want to add any more complications, huh? She was beginning to feel dizzy. Too much mana was still flowing through her. Fine. She'd give it an outlet. She scrambled to form the next circle in her mind before she gave in to her vertigo. A simple 2-node spell. Flame and heat to mana. She shunted all the mana she could feel pouring into her right hand, forcing that spell to activate. Instantly, a huge flame billowed to life in her hand. It was hot. Hotter than her eternal flame. Despite what she was trying to do, it burned. Lily felt a scream build up inside her, but refused to give in. If she let herself panic for even a second, she was going to die. So that was off limits. Absolutely not. The stone was rising. As it cleared the ground below, she heard the entire room she'd been in collapsing down into the basement below. But it didn't matter now. The platform was going to clear the ceiling any second. As the clear air came into view, Lily made her move. She jumped from the concrete she had been riding. The nearest place to land was the same piece of concrete that had dumped her into the hole to begin with. As she landed on it, she started to slide back toward the hole. But this time Lily was prepared. She caught herself on the rebar, using it as a foothold. The impact made it start to destabilize, so she climbed as fast as she could. The flame on her hand went out as she lost focus, and the mana began to flow into her in full again. She forced herself forward. It was tilting too fast. She wasn't going to make it before it toppled in. Lily let out a desperate scream. Suddenly, Star was there. He bit her shirt at the shoulder and started trying to pull her up. It was helping, but she was starting to lose strength as too much mana filled her up. Lily slammed her good hand into the concrete she was desperately clinging to and started drawing. A new spell. This one gathered air and pushed it upward here. The resulting updraft made the difference with Star's help. She pulled above the lip of the concrete and fell flat on the next piece. This one was more stable. She tried to get up, but staggered and doubled over. Star started licking the blood off the back of her hand. Smart dog. She could still hear the crashing from behind her. This area might not last long either. She drew a quick fire spell to get rid of some of her excess. Then Lily rose unsteadily to her feet. Run! She hoped Star would understand. She started making her way away from the hole as fast as she could. It was frustratingly slow going, even with her manic energy, but she couldn't risk falling bodily on broken rebar. Then she got an awful feeling. She didn't even know she could sense this, but she suddenly knew. Her circle on the concrete lift had broken. She glanced over her shoulder just in time to see it falling. They could feel the thud it created as it fell back into the hole. The rubble shifted, and more collapsed. Lily frantically found her way to the edge and climbed down as quickly as she could. Stepping onto solid ground, she could have wept with joy. Lily wasn't willing to stop anywhere near this rubble, though, so she limped weakly over to her car, opened the door, and got in. Star jumped over her lap and into the passenger seat. Lily sat there, staring ahead vacantly for a minute. Then she laughed. She laughed and laughed and laughed. Lily was driving home. She had laughed herself senseless and maybe fallen asleep for a little while. But once she had gotten herself together, she just wanted to go home. Home to her new home. Her boat. She was talking to Star while she did. How did you get up there anyway? I couldn't have done it without you, boy. Thank you. I hope you can understand that. Even if not the words, the feeling. You're a good boy. I'll find a good reward for you, okay? As she said that, she drove past a large recognizable M. The Golden Arches. McDonald's. Lily had an idea. The power was off, but it was time to pull off a heist. Thankfully, the doors were open. It was a 24-hour location after all. Finally, some good luck. Now we're headed to the kitchen. You can feel free to eat anything you find that isn't bad. Do you know what's bad? Oh well, I'll just find some buns to toss you. She did. It was easy even. She wasn't about to risk the meats or anything, but she had one thing she was here for above all else. The ice cream machine. I swear to God, it's gonna be the ice cream machine. 15 minutes later, Lily pushed a levitating ice cream machine out of the store and into the back of her SUV, while I didn't think she would bring the whole machine. The McFlurry machine was tucked under her arm. Rewards in hand, it was time to go home. Speeding down the road as the sun rose, windows down for Star, Lily couldn't stop laughing. She hurt all over. She was beyond tired, but she felt alive for the first time in a very long time. Yeah, because she did a crime again, because that's what drives her. Crime! Chapter 22. Lily awoke to a chicken pecking her forehead. She groaned and waved her arms at it to send it scurrying. When she'd gotten home, she tossed a bunch of fridge vegetables into the yard to make sure they had something to eat, and immediately passed out. In the yard? She had left the door open so Star could get out, and hadn't thought about the chickens coming in. Oh, inside, okay. She tried to sit up. It took more than one attempt, but she eventually got into a sitting position on the couch. She'd used Bay as a pillow all day. Glancing around, she saw the sun was going down. That made sense. It'd been coming up when she got home. Lily yawned and closed her eyes again for a minute. I lived. That's good. She paused to let that sink in. But before she could get too lost in thought, she heard a thumping sound from the other side of the couch. Star's tail was wagging as he looked at her cautiously. Couldn't have done it without you. Good boy. Guess we're really in this together, huh? We need to talk. I think it's time for a family meeting. But first, breakfast. Lily climbed to her feet and took a step before she noticed something. A small pile of eggs was sitting next to where she'd been sleeping. She glanced over at Star. Did you do this? I can't eat them raw, you know. His tail wagged harder, and his tongue lolled out of his mouth. Lily couldn't help but smile. You're sweet, though, and way too smart. Way, way too smart. We need to talk about that, too. She gathered up the eggs and made her way to the kitchen. She washed the eggs off and put them in the fridge, unsure of how they should be stored. Star followed her. He seemed tired, too, because even his movements seemed a bit sluggish. Can I just give you a raw piece of meat from in here? Should I cook it? What's healthy for you? I know you can eat kibble, but you deserve better than that right now. Ah, screw it, I'll cook it a little. The girl got out 2 pans and some butter and began her best attempt at cooking. This scene almost felt like a normal day in the before times. A dog laying on the floor of the kitchen, while a girl cooks a steak and eggs. The only things out of place were the chicken that kept jumping up on the counter and all the wounds. This time, Lily thought to add salt and pepper to both of their meals. They still came out pretty bland, but progress is progress, right? She made her way back to the couch and had Star run through his tricks before she gave him his steak. Unsurprisingly, he got all of them on the first try. He actually seemed a little offended that she seemed to think he might get them wrong. Don't give me that look, you're a puppy. Puppies normally struggle with this stuff. You are a puppy, right? Or do you just look like one? I don't trust anything anymore. He woofed. I take it back. I trust you. Happy? He stared. She forked over the steak and started in on her eggs. Through a mouthful of the simple meal, she spoke. So, last night was, something, huh? Star was absolutely horking down his meal and had no time for the small talk. Lily took a moment to set Bay on the remains of the coffee table, so he'd feel included in this conversation. Thanks for coming to my rescue. I got pretty fucked up. It was my own fault, too. I need to do some looking inwards, so we'll start there. You two, don't judge too much, okay? We all know that Bay will judge. Star briefly looked up and licked his lips. Bay just stared at her with affection and understanding in his eyes. So, I don't know what's wrong with me. When there's nothing happening, I feel like I'm not suited to live in this world. But the main thing I've learned since all this happened is, well, I find it a lot easier to exist when my back is up against a wall. When I think I'm going to die, my normal issues fade away. Everything. I don't know, it feels real, you know? In a way that life normally doesn't to me. I feel like I'm here, like I exist, like I'm alive. And in that moment, I want to keep that, and I'm willing to do anything to do it. Does that make sense? Star had finished his meal and was staring at her as if he was listening. Lily didn't know how much he understood, but at this point she wasn't going to discount it. Probably not. It doesn't really make sense to me. It's like noise, right? Like on a normal day where nothing is happening, there's this static in the back of my mind. And if I don't focus on it, that's all it is. Static. Background white noise. But if I focus on it for even a second, it's not just white noise. It's, I don't know, a pit? A void? Something I can fall into and spiral. It becomes a voice. My voice. Not literally. Not a hallucination or whatever. But it's just me talking to me. God, this sounds so fucking crazy, but it's just negative thoughts. Suicidal ideation. Self-hatred, doubt, fear. And it just gets louder and louder if I listen to it, you know? Lily took a deep breath and rested her face in her hands. Star let out a small whine, seeming to incense that she was struggling, so she gathered herself and continued. It's always there, but when I let my guard down and let it gets loud. So loud I can't think past it. So loud it's all I can focus on. My own darkest thoughts, telling me I shouldn't be allowed to exist in this world. I'm not good enough. I don't belong here and I don't deserve it. But that's the thing. When it comes down to it, and my life is on the line, it shuts up. Star needs to give therapy to his master. I feel like Bay is the therapist. She took a moment to finish her own plate. She saved a couple bites for Star and made sure to toss them to him. Giving Bay an apologetic nod, she got up to wash her dishes and continued talking. Everything goes silent in my head. I can focus on the world around me, and with the voice quiet, I don't want to die anymore. Suddenly, I feel like I can do anything. I'm still scared, terrified, but I feel free in a way that I normally don't. I think I might have been chasing that feeling. I think that without realizing it, I might have put myself in danger intentionally last night to get the voice to shut up. So I've come back to, what's wrong with me? Lily realized she'd just been letting the water run and staring at it for a while. She turned it off and started undoing her bandage. Cleaning that was next on her list. I don't actually want to die. Well, most of the time. But sometimes it seems like I'm trying to kill me. And what's worse, I was rewarded for the behavior. I felt invincible last night. Like I could do anything. It paid off, too. When I recover, I'm going to be so much better at magic, it's stupid. Her wound had burned a little, making it more painful, but fortunately a little less prone to just bleeding and bleeding. Lily grimaced as she cleaned the wound as best she could. It was still quite painful. It did seem to be healing up faster than she expected, though. What was with that? Don't think I've forgotten about you either, Star. You are not an ordinary dog. I'm sure of that now. I wish I could just ask you, but not only have you shown me that you're crazy smart, don't think I don't notice that you're absolutely dripping with mana. It wasn't super obvious before last night, but I guess spending so much time in the spooky spot filled you up? How come the first spooky spot didn't have the effect on you? Star whined softly and tilted his head looking at her. It was painfully cute. Look here, mister. Being adorable isn't going to get you out of questioning. How did you get up on top of the rubble? How do you know what to do to help? What are you exactly? Some kind of magical creature? He nuzzled her leg. Lily let out a deep sigh. How much can you understand me? I don't think you do totally yet. Like, hey, spin around if you understand what I'm telling you. Nod your head, give me some signs. Star panted and wagged his tail. Yeah, I thought so. But if I keep talking to you like this, I get the feeling it's only a matter of time. So I'm going to keep talking to you until you get there. Okay, buddy? He woofed. At least he seemed to understand when she was asking him a question by her tone. Lily sat down on the kitchen floor next to him. What the hell do I do now? That's something to talk about, huh? Apart from trying to not be so reckless, of course. I want to keep learning magic, I guess. Maybe if I pick up enough, I can do something truly amazing. Maybe I can even find a way to make things normal again. Or just leave whatever this world is. But even if I just make things more comfortable for myself, it will still be nice. Plus, my survival rate will go up if learning magic isn't the thing that kills me. Lily laid down with her head resting on Star's haunches. He calmed down as well, seemingly happy to be a pillow. Despite that, the steady thump of his tail continued. So, keep going. Unlock the secrets of magic and the universe, and live comfortably. That doesn't sound too bad. The real problem is, I don't know where to begin, or how to do it as safely as I'd like. My body can't take this level of constant injury forever. I'll die for real. A chicken wandered into the kitchen, and Lily glared at it, but didn't get up. I need to take care of these chickens too. Ugh, there's so much shit to do all the time. But first, a few more things to address. For one, I don't know how I'm healing quicker than normal, but I'm pretty convinced it's happening at this point. Can I dial that up somehow? And secondly, how am I still alive? Star whined and fidgeted at that. Oh, calm down. I don't mean that in a self-depreciating way. But seriously, am I actually secretly competent under stress? Or do I have some kind of quantum immortality effect going on? I feel like my mental image of myself would have died 100 times over by now. I mean, I've had help sometimes too. That's a whole other can of worms. But I mean, last night, right? Did I really do that? Did I get lucky? Or is it something deeper? Okay, maybe this is self-deprecating, but I just truly don't believe I'm strong and good enough to do what I did last night. Lily took a deep breath and reached out to hold Star's paw. Maybe this is paranoid, but I'm starting to wonder. Can I die? I know that sounds crazy, but I've lived through so many things that I feel like should have killed me. I'm not going to test it or anything, but I'm feeling very unsettled thinking about it. What if I have died? And this is just Lily World number 3,210,356 or something. She giggled and sat up. Okay, that sounds silly to say out loud, even to me. Come on, Star. Let's get these chickens outside and see what we can do to give them some easy food and shelter. The sun had gone down, but Lily was starting to not be so scared about the night sky. It was amazing what you could get used to in a short amount of time if you had no choice. Lily chased the chickens out of the house with Star's help. Once he realized what she was doing, he was more than happy to round them up outside. There was one problem, though. There were only 4 chickens. Star. Star? How hungry are you, actually? Aren't there supposed to be 5 of you? Lily looked around. The area was still fenced. She was pretty sure chickens can fly. Can't fly. So what the heck? Star, can you find the last chicken? Where's the other chicken? Star perked up and started sniffing around. In just a moment, he'd found his way to one of the fences and looked at it whining. Past the fence? How? You guys are supposed to stay in the backyard. Grumbling, she found her way to the gate and went out with Star. He immediately picked up the trail, and they continued along parallel to the coast for a few minutes of walking before Star suddenly stopped. Lily couldn't see very much with just the light of the moon, but she stopped as well when Star started growling. A low, deep sound that she hadn't really heard him make before this. At first, she was surprised, but she thought better of speaking to tell him to stop or ask what was going on. Star moved in front of her protectively, and Lily quietly started backwards. Whatever was going on, it was some form of danger, so she'd retreat. Star followed suit, protectively weaving behind her, and between her and the threat she still couldn't see. Whatever it was obscured by darkness and foliage. As she got further away, Star seemed to calm somewhat, but rather than growling, he was now whining softly and trying to lead her back to the house, so she followed quickly and carefully. By the time they reached the fence, Lily's heart was pounding out of her chest. She felt pursued, hunted, followed through the darkness. So when she got to the fence and opened it, she turned one more time to see if she could figure out what the danger was. And she saw it. Or rather, them. What the fuck? At least 5 figures skulked through the darkness in the clearing before the tree line. Dogs. Oh. Probably former pets, but now wandering as a group. A small pack of semi-feral dogs, probably hungry. Lily went back inside the fence and closed it behind her. Well, I guess we solved the mystery. Go us! Think we're safe here, Star? He seemed a lot less convinced now that they were on their own turf. Still, Lily headed back inside the house to be safe. Okay. Tomorrow we're taking a trip to the farm and putting the chickens back. I made a huge mistake bringing them here. We can just go there every few days for eggs. Let's see about some milk too, huh? With that settled, Lily felt a little better. It was small, but it was something she could do without putting herself in much danger. A direction to start in. She settled down on the couch with Star and Bay to watch some TV till the sun came up. She missed her boat, but wasn't willing to go out with potential danger, so instead she watched some of Friends while she went over her body carefully and treated all of her small scrapes and scratches. Overall, it was a nice calm night. Exactly what she needed, even if her sleep schedule was ruined. Author note, apologies for late upload. I totally thought today was Monday. That's embarrassing. Enjoy. Yay, we didn't have to wait. I feel like someone is training Lily step by step to understand magic. Me too. And it's probably Entity B, or the one who is helping her, and who is also speaking to her through the phone and spawning boats for her. Chapter 23. The girl yawned as she pulled up to the farm in her mall-mobile. Despite being spacious, the car felt full. A dog was buckled into the passenger seat, and in the back seat there was a stuffed seal and 4 live chickens. It felt like she was driving a circus. She's in a simulation chat, new prediction. Just like, yeah, it makes sense. There were bags under her eyes from not getting proper rest. Lily had tried, but the night in the pit followed by sleeping all day made it difficult to sleep through the night. She'd gotten a nap for a few hours, but was caught in the awkward limbo of not sleeping through the night and not needing to be up and moving during the day. Otherwise, the day was going well. A cautious look in the morning had revealed blood and feathers where the trail to the missing chicken led, so she had just loaded the rest into the car. Really, what had she been thinking? Bringing chickens to live in her backyard? That had been a big mistake. but she was looking forward to getting some work done on the farm this morning. Lily had some ideas, and the farm was the perfect place to get some practice. She also figured she better learn how to milk a cow, but that was for later today. She can finally have her Stardew Valley dream come true. Star let out an excited whoop, catching Lily off guard. She glanced over at him. Are you already bigger than last time we were here? It feels like it. Oh well, hold on. We'll let you out in the car in a moment. Help me get the chickens into the pen, okay? He barked again. She rolled her eyes. He was always so excited. But he was helpful, and taking care of him had been a lot easier than she'd expected so far. Actually, she wondered if he was taking care of her sometimes. Well, they could take care of each other. They were partners. She pulled right up to the house and got out of the car. Star hopped right out too, and she went to work collecting chickens. She was getting a lot more used to picking them up and holding them now, especially with Star's help grabbing them in the first place. It only took a few minutes to gather them one by one and toss them back into the chicken pen. Thus ended a terrible plan. Letting out a big sigh of relief, Lily turned her attention to the rest of the farm. Star was already chasing the ducks around again, but something caught Lily's attention. A big shape was coming around the corner and... Wait, it was outside the fence! Oh shit. A donkey trotted into view and was heading straight for Star. Lily immediately breathed out a sigh of relief. She'd never seen a donkey in real life before. It was really cute. They are cute. She'd always thought of them as horses, but worse. No, horses, but worse. That's so mean. So she wasn't really sure what a donkey would be doing here. But it was fun to look at. The donkey disrespect. Maybe the homeowner's kids rode it or something. She was midway through that thought when she realized the donkey wasn't stopping. It was charging at Star. She called out, "Star! Danger!" He immediately perked up and looked around, spotting the donkey. Star whirled and put himself between the donkey and Lily. Meanwhile, the huge animal put itself between Star and the ducks. An uneasy standoff began. Star let out a low growl. His adversary stomped its hooves and then started forward. "Star, run!" Lily didn't want this to turn into a fight. The donkey was probably familiar with humans, right? She didn't know they were aggressive. Lily ran towards the house. Star zigged and sagged along the path behind her in case the donkey charged, but it didn't. It circled back to the ducks when it realized they were retreating. Yeah, I was gonna say that as well. Like, they're not aggressive. They can be very stubborn and they do whatever the fuck they want. But they're really funny. Fortunately, the door wasn't locked. They entered the house and Lily shut the door behind them. Okay, well, that's something we have to deal with. Maybe there's something we can feed it to get on its good side in the fridge. Lily stood in a pretty nice entryway. It wasn't a mansion on the same level as her beach home, but it was plenty spacious and seemed to have been well taken care of. There was a small area to take off shoes and a coat rack with some warm-looking jackets hung on it. From here, she could see a rather nice kitchen. Granite counters, dark wood finish, a large fridge, electric oven, microwave, dishwasher, and a huge sink. Ah, pretty nice. Let's check around for donkey snacks. Help me look, will you? The fridge wasn't working, so Lily didn't bother checking there, although the fridge magnets were spelling out some poetry. Bright afternoon sun evokes memories, enticing nocturnal thoughts. Lily wasn't sure what that meant, so she started looking into the pantry instead. Did donkeys eat bread? The bread still looked okay, but she couldn't remember anyone ever feeding that to a horse or anything on TV. Then a small basket of fruit on the counter caught her eye. Apples! There were 3. She could try bribing the donkey with apples, right? Okay, Star, listen. I'm going to go make friends with the donkey. I need you to stay here. Instantly, Star let out a loud whine and ran to the front door. Well, goody. He understood what she meant enough to be mad about it. No complaining. Look, if you go with me, it's going to be more skittish. Not only was it defending ducks from you, but you've got big sharp teeth and predator shape. Meanwhile, it's probably used to humans being friendly. It's safer for me, see? Understand? Star whined and scratched at the door. He did not understand. He wanted to go and protect her too. Lily put her hands on her hips. Listen here, mister. Oh, now she's going mom mode. I'll bring you with me when I've made friends with it. Then I can introduce you. But until then, I need to look as harmless as possible, okay? She pointed to herself and mimed holding out the apple. Not danger. See? Not danger. He stopped scratching at the door but gave her the most dejected dog look. Lily patted him on the head until his tail started wagging, and then carefully stepped outside. To her relief, the donkey wasn't waiting right outside the door. She closed it behind her and jumped when she heard a thump from inside. She glanced to her left and saw Star had found a window to watch from. That made her feel a little better. She was pretty sure he'd throw himself through the window bodily if things started to go too far south. Swallowing her anxiety, Lily started forward. The donkey wasn't hard to spot at all. It was still standing guard near the ducks. Noticing her, it circled the ducks protectively, and then placed itself in her path. Lily stopped and tried to hold her body as non-aggressively as possible. She whispered to herself to calm down. Just pretend not to be scared and defensive. Easy, right? Lily took a few steps forward and held out the apple. The donkey was still at least 20 feet away, but she was hoping it would know what the apple was. It stood still and eyed her for a few seconds, before slowly starting forward towards her. It didn't seem to be charging, so Lily held her ground. She tried speaking to it calmly. Here you go, fella. Hey, buddy, pal, friend? Have an apple on the house, huh? I'm not scared. The donkey didn't seem to believe her, but it trotted up anyway and started sniffing at the apple. You do like apples, right? I'm not, making an ass of myself. Fucking the dad jokes. Lily giggled to herself, unable to help making a nervous pun. The donkey seemed to relax a little too when she laughed, and it started nibbling the apple. Moments later, it took it out of her hand and started chomping it down. Lily reached out and cautiously petted it behind the ears. It didn't immediately snap at her, so she continued. Aw, see? You're a friendly, guy, girl. Well, whatever. You were just protecting the farm, right? Good donkey. But I own the farm now, so we're going to have to get along, okay? As a matter of fact, she wasn't sure if she did own the farm now. But she did insofar as she owned anything, so it also wasn't technically a lie. Next, the girl led the donkey back towards the house, leveraging her 2 remaining apples. Once they got right out front, she gave up the second snack. I'm always so confused when it says the girl. Then it seems like someone is watching her do it, but she's like, I don't know. There you go, see? No big deal. We'll give you the 3rd one if you can be around Star. He'll be on his best behavior, okay? I promise. She opened the door cautiously. Star immediately tried to push out until she calmed him down. As the donkey caught sight of the dog, it tensed up. Lily showed it the apple again and held it out, while trying to keep Star calm. The beast relaxed warily. Which one is the beast? And began to eat the apple. Lily let Star come out of the house and gave the pack animal a good sniff. There. Are we friends? Uneasy alliance, at least? After finishing the fruit snack, the donkey sniffed around Star in return. It let out a woof of a sigh and started ambling away. Lily looked down at Star and gave him a shrug. Okay, I guess we're good. Don't chase the ducks today, though, just in case, yeah? Ah, yes, my phase of just trying so hard not to use the words she and Lily in every sentence to varied success. It confuses me a bit, since she wouldn't say, like, it makes more sense to me that it's like, oh, Lily or she or the girl. Then it's like, who? As if someone else is watching her who doesn't know her name. So then it becomes like the girl. Since in the beginning, I was like, oh, someone's watching her. But now I'm like, I don't think someone's watching her anymore. Since it comes up in sentences like these as well, then it feels more like, oh, that's just how how it's written. I'm reading too much into it. She wasn't sure Star understood, but his tail dropped slightly. The girl and the dog followed the donkey on its slow walk back towards the animal pens. Well, I guess if you're gonna be here defending the animals, I gotta give you a name. Maybe a knight name. Galahad. Arthur. Maybe not. Did any knights have like a famous horse or something? She could swear the donkey gave her a flat, somewhat offended look. Okay, you're not a horse. I get it. Fine. A different name then. Knights, though. That feels right. The way you charge right in. Oh, I got it. No, this is perfect. Oh, fuck, I don't know how to say this. But it's stupid. Because it's dog. Donkey shot? Because I know it's stupid pronunciation that I don't know how to say. Don Quixote or some shit. Like, it's really fun. Anyway, you know what it says. Lily let out a perfect squeal. That's so perfect. I love it. Okay, donk. Donk for short. Thank God. Although I'm pretty sure Dawn is like a title or something. Oh well. Keisha is much harder to shorten and you can't understand me, so donk is fine. Thank God. Please never let me say that shit again. Oh my God. I can even call the farm La Mancha. I'm way into this. I am not. I don't even understand it. The animals didn't get it. I'm an animal, I guess, but that was to be expected. Lily was suddenly feeling rejuvenated. It was time to get started on her work. So first she headed back into the house. Lily wanted to find a particularly sharp knife to kill Dawn or something else she could make lasting marks with. What? She had spell casting to do and was not feeling rested enough to want to fuck with Mana. Let's cut her. So blood worked last time, Dawn. The novice mage made her way to the kitchen and started digging around in drawers for potential tools. There were a couple knives that might work in the knife block, but Lily decided to look through all the drawers for something better. Her shock wouldn't really work for what she wanted. She was really hoping to scratch a pattern into things if she could. As she looked through the drawers, though, she was mostly disappointed. Then she got to the kitchen island. It had a drawer on it too, but it was stuck. Lily grabbed it tightly with her good hand and pulled as hard as she could. Nothing. So she braced herself against the island and really put her weight into it. On the third pull, there was a sudden cracking sound, and she instantly lost balance and fell backwards, slamming into the fridge pretty hard. A rain of magnets fell around her, and she yelped more out of surprise than pain. No, the cute poem about sun and dusk. The handle had broken off. Lily shook her head to get the magnets out of her hair, and then reached for the drawer. Thankfully, it came right open. Ha! The junk drawer! Like I was saying, every good kitchen needs a junk drawer. Who doesn't have a junk drawer? The somewhat dazed girl started going through her new treasure chest. Rubber bands, twine, several pairs of scissors, an old Reader's Digest, nail clippers, thumbtacks, and, an awl, or an ice pick. She wasn't really sure what the difference was. Probably an ice pick because it was in the kitchen. That was perfect! Gathering up her prize, she turned to pick up the mess she made and froze. Most of the magnets had fallen off of the fridge. As a matter of fact, only 8 remained, but they spelled the word clear as day. A word Lily had already been trying to write off as paranoia in the back of her head. Is it beloved? Because a word can't be following you, right? Even though it seemed to keep coming up. Okay, that's spooky. Odds on that being a coincidence? The silence answered her. She could just ignore it, pretend she hadn't noticed. She'd already been trying to do that. Was it a warning? Was it telling her where to go or stay away from? There were too many questions and Lily really didn't want to think about it. So instead she put the magnets down on the kitchen counter, took her prize and went outside. Star was playing with Dog. They were taking turns cautiously chasing one another, like they were both a little scared for the other would think it was for real. It was very cute, but Lily couldn't focus on it. The overwhelmed girl sat down on the stoop and took a deep breath. Well, that's something to think about. In the kitchen, on the fridge, sat a perfectly spelled out word. Where once had been poetry, now only an ominous message remained. Basement. You have to go to the basement. Chapter 24. Basement. She had really tried to ignore the signs. There was a creepy basement under her beach house. At least there was a button on the elevator that said basement. She couldn't find any other signs that one existed. For that matter, although it had been days, she hadn't explored the second floor either. Maybe she'd make a mistake looking for a mansion. It was just too big. But she was settled now. It was a base, same as the boat and maybe La Mancha. But she was getting off track. She noticed the basement on the first trip into the mansion. Later, she'd woken up to characters on TV talking about a basement. Then, in the pit, there had been a door with the word scrawled on it. Now, the magnets. The signs were getting a lot harder to ignore. But why? Was this like her phone messages? Could this be Entity B again? If so, what was the message? Go to the basement? Never go to the basement? Maybe there's danger in the basement. How was she supposed to know exactly? Lily didn't want to deal with this. Go to the basement. Star and Dog were playing, and she wanted to just focus on that and enjoy her day. But now she had all this to think about. She could just pretend she hadn't noticed, go about her day like nothing happened. Fine, I'll decide what to do later. I'm not going to head home right now anyway. I still have stuff to do here. The girl stood up, suddenly feeling decisive. She did have a lot to do. It's not like the basement was going anywhere, so she grabbed her new ice pick and went to work. Her first order of business was with the water throws that were in the animal pens. Not all of them were the same shape, but all of them served the same purpose. They held water and refilled through a pipe from the main water silo on the property. Was silo the right word? Maybe it was just called a tank. Whatever. But that sort of system didn't really need to exist anymore. If she wasn't here every day and one of the hoses broke or something, it would be a big problem. So she was going to do some magic. There were two potential spell formations she had in mind. The first one would simply gather water and pour it into the container. If it overflowed, it overflowed. But she thought that she might be able to make a change to one of the various storage glyphs she'd figured out to make it store water instead of mana. In that case, she could probably just make it fill until it was full. But that was an experiment. The easiest one would work and be enough to ensure none of the animals went thirsty. It was about to be a lot of carving, though. She really needed a method to automate this. Maybe she could get a spell that would cut patterns into things, but then she'd need to power it with her mana. Ugh, why do I have to be so weak? How do I increase my mana pool? I don't want to just carry around a bunch of charged up rocks. What if they have some interference with each other or something? Well, before anything else, she needed to make a prototype, so she went looking for a bucket. Fortunately, there were plenty of things that would work in the barn. What she found was more of a washing basin or a tub than a bucket, but it would work. She found a nice empty patch of dirt and placed down her container, then started drawing out her circle. It was a simple spell. Gather ambient mana, gather water, infuse water. The last bit was where it got sketchy. She had a theory about glyphs, and if she was guessing right, this ought to fill the container. Lily called Star over and had him sit so she could have an audience while she explained what she was doing. Donk seemed disappointed, but Lily was determined to talk to Star like he was a semi-intelligent being until that proved true or false. Listen, here's the plan. See, there's written languages, right? I'm not super familiar with a lot of them, but I took a few Japanese lessons when I was younger, and I think these glyphs have something in common. So like, in Japanese, and I suspect other languages with a similar writing style, a lot of words can be written out as single symbols. Kanji. There are a lot of symbols to memorize, right? One for every word or concept. Star looked over his shoulder and Donk across the courtyard and whined. Hey, listen, mister. It's lesson time. I gotta talk this out for my own safety too, see? So the thing is, kanji can be broken down into I think they're called radicals. Basically, they're kanji of their own that can be combined to create a symbol with a complicated meaning. For example, 3 of the radical that means tree can be combined to create the singular symbol for forest. Does that make sense? She doodled them as best she could remember what she explained. She was absolutely sure she was misremembering some of this, but plowed on ahead. Star seemed more interested with the visual diagrams. When it comes to glyphs, I noticed a symbol for mana. This little star-looking thing is in a lot of glyphs. And as far as I can tell, they all fuck with mana in some way. So, what happens if I replace the symbol for mana here with the one for water? Instead of imbuing an object with mana, I'll put water into it, right? At least, that's the plan. If not, maybe I'll try the capacitor with water instead. As Lily finished her thought, she turned to actually draw the glyphs into the circle. Star barked, so Lily turned back around. You can hide if you want. I know what I'm doing a bit better now. At worst, this sprays water everywhere. Or I guess it could try to infuse H2O on like a molecular scale and something completely unpredictable will happen. But I'm pretty sure. Star went quiet and slinked over to the side. Lily gave him a smile and patted his head. Oh well, aren't you sweet protecting me? A few seconds later, the glyphs were plugged in. Lily cautiously backed up as mana flowed into the circle. She waited, impatiently. 30 seconds later, she was less certain that anything was happening, but the mana wasn't building up, so it had to be doing something, right? Cautiously, Lily edged forward. She had to shoo Star, who nipped her pant leg and tried to gently pull her back. The beginner mage had to get a better look at her new project. As she got right up to the basin, she was surprised to see water dripping down the slick inside edges of it. It was pooling at the bottom, just slowly. In the nearly a minute it had been running, it filled the bucket about a 20th of the way up. Huh, okay. Slower than I thought, but it's working. Star, it's working! Come look! Star edged forward after her, letting out a low growl. I know you don't trust magic, especially the new stuff. But my thought was dead on. Well, in theory. In practice, it's pretty slow. But hey, have a drink! It's water! From the air! Star nervously approached the basin and gave it a sniff. He seemed to calm down a little after that, but pointedly refused to have some. I guess we'll have to wait like an hour to see if anything bad happens though. I don't think it's gonna explode, but let's spend that time far away, huh? I think it's time to learn how to milk a cow. Lily had already watched her downloaded YouTube videos about how to milk a cow, and it didn't seem too complicated. The hardest part was getting the cow to the milking station, but these cows had apparently been there often enough that they more or less knew what was happening. Combined with Star helping to herd it in the right direction, that part only took half an hour for the first time. The problem was no milk. Lily was pretty sure she was following the instructions well enough, but nothing was coming out. She poked the udder. No. The cow seemed almost as confused as the girl. Lily had been using the motion in all of the videos for a while now, and nothing had come out at all. I can only think bad thoughts. Is this cow broken? Or is it me? Do I not have the magic touch? What do you think, Star? Star let out a small boof. He seemed to know when he was being talked to, whether he understood the words or not. It was encouraging, so Lily was making a habit of it. Maybe the basement contains the secrets of milking cows. Yes, maybe Entity B just wants me to have milk, huh? Surely. Lily laughed nervously. She hadn't been able to get the basement out of her mind, try as she might. But jokes aside, she really did need to figure out what was up with the cow. It was going to be a long process, but she wasn't getting anywhere with this one. So it was time to get another. Unfortunately, the second cow didn't go any differently. By the time Lily was frustrated trying to milk the third one to no avail, she wanted to scream. What am I doing wrong? Unless all of these cows are defective or something. It's gotta be me, right? Can they just tell me I don't know what I'm doing so they won't give up the milk? What the hell? The cow made a loud mooing sound and swished its tail. seemingly a little uncomfortable at Lily's outburst. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm pissed too. I've always heard that cows like to be milked, so what gives, huh? Do they? It was clear this wasn't going anywhere, so Lily was going to have to give up for now. Maybe she needed to find an agricultural book after all. Wait, was handling animals even agriculture, or was that just plants? With a heavy sigh, Lily started the process of getting the last cow back into the pen. As the girl got the cow out of the milking station, she noticed a clipboard hung on the wall next to it. It was a schedule. It had cow numbers on it. Were the cows numbered? On the ear. Lily inspected the cow. Well, that was easy enough. It had an ear tag. What was with the schedule, though? She took the clipboard off the wall. It was a simple grid, not a calendar, so it didn't even have the date on it. Oh well, that's just great. How am I supposed to know how to read this? It did seem to be some kind of milking schedule, though. Wait, there were 24 boxes. Maybe these were months instead of days. Then they wouldn't really need to be labeled. But why would only one cow be scheduled for months at a time? Did only one cow at a time work? Lily realized she was hopelessly out of her depth, and with no real way to know which month was the current month, she decided to give up for now. But she had a new goal. She needed to research why cows might not work most of the time. Good news, girl. I no longer think you are defective, at least. Sorry for all the milking. Oh my god. You were probably just as confused as me, huh? She patted the huge beast gently and led it back to the pen. After getting the cow secured, she found a nice place in the grass to sit and called Star over. The dog happily bounded to her side and laid down next to her. The tired girl pet him and yawned. I'd like to start solving some of these mysteries rather than constantly getting served more. Why do cows only work some of the time? What's in the basement? Who is Entity B? What or who is Entity A? Why did magic come into being? There are just so many things I don't know. I don't even know what you are. Star panted and nudged her leg with his head. Rolling his eyes, Lily rubbed him behind the ears. What? Rolling her eyes. I was like, rolling his eyes. The Star just rolled his eyes. Rolling her eyes, Lily rubbed him behind the ears. What's the opposite of the Dunning-Kruger effect? Because I think I'm discovering it in real time. When all this started, I felt hopelessly out of my depth. But the more I learn and grow, and the more I discover, the more I find that I'm way more hopelessly out of my depth than I even knew. Every time I learn something, I end up with 1,000 more questions and everything gets 1,000,000 times more complicated. I just want to scream. As the silence settled around her, Lily realized nothing was stopping her. So she screamed, as loud as she could, at the top of her lungs, just to get some of these feelings out. It did make her feel a little better. Donk trotted into view, just close enough to see her. Then, seeming to realize nothing was wrong, started to amble away slowly. Well, nice of him to check on us, I guess, huh, Star? The dog rolled over and pointedly exposed his belly to his master. She obliged. The spell hadn't exploded. That was the good news. The bad news was the basin had overflowed. In fact, it had overflowed to the point that it had destroyed the circle powering it. Lily had to laugh at that. Hey, that's actually a good idea, though. I can make spells out of chalk or something, and have a fail-safe that breaks the circle with water or whatever else if something goes wrong. Going to file that tidbit away for later. She really wished she had some kind of if-then clause she could use in circle creation. There had to be a way to do that. She knew how it would look on a circuit board, although she was more familiar with how it would look in Minecraft using redstone. Could she just do something like that? If mana ran along the path of a circle sort of like electricity, is there any reason it wouldn't work? Well, that was going to be a whole other complicated litany of tests. Not to mention, since her guess about glyph radicals had come to fruition, she had 1,000,000 more glyphs she could test. What happens if she separates the 2 radicals in the flame glyph, for example? What did they represent? Heat to mana used one of them, so was the flame-looking one actually just heat? In which case, what was the other half? Could she plug in those radicals elsewhere? There were 1,000,000 questions to answer. I guess I have all the time in the world, huh? Somehow, that felt like a melancholy thought rather than a reassurance. For now, Lily grabbed a basin of water and dumped about 10% out nearby. Then she went and got a second container. This one was just a glass cup from the kitchen. Time for test number 2. She filled the circle back in and added a bit that should send overflow to the cup, just like how she could divert overflow from a capacitor to another circle. Sure enough, the cup started to fill when the bucket was full. How could it tell the bucket was full? Magic, I guess, huh? Lily decided that was a question for far further down the line. For now, it worked. That was the most important part, which meant she had her work cut out for her. Because now it was time to replicate this spell on each of the animal water containers, and position a basin for overflow outside the pens so if it flooded, it didn't turn their pen into a mud pit. But there were so many places she'd have to draw this circle. It was become clear that this was not one day's work. She'd just have to come back to La Mancha a few more times over the next couple days to get it all done. With a sigh of defeat, she spoke to herself. All right, let's feed the animals and go home. By the time Lily returned home, it was getting dark and she was beyond exhausted. Basement, 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 basement. She'd gotten a lot of good one. And even if she went to sleep right when she returned, she'd be on a more normal sleep schedule again. Even Bay looked tired in the back seat. Star slept most of the way home. Lily almost had to pull over and take a nap once or twice, but she made it. Maybe it was still anxiety about the basement, and maybe it was just how tired she was, but she didn't bother going to the main house. She grabbed Bay and walked around the side, heading down the dock to her boat. As she got to the dock, though, Star started letting out a low growl. Lily turned to look around, suddenly cautious. Star was staring at the tree line where the chicken had gone missing. Lily hurried onto her boat. She looked back and saw Star peeing near the entrance to the dock. Oh, for the love of... She was about to complain, but then she realized that it might actually keep the wild dogs away, so she gave up. Star came trotting up the dock, looking proud of himself. Lily rolled her eyes but praised him. Good boy. Now let's go in, get some food and sleep, huh? A happy bark seemed to agree with her. Good piece, dog. Chapter 25. Star eagerly alerted his master he wanted to leave their shared water shelter. She seemed groggy as she tumbled out of bed and hustled to open the barricade for him to leave. She truly was a creature of contradictions. His master was powerful, Lady Flamewalker, shaper of the world's soul, conqueror of the pit, and yet he watched as she stubbed her toe and made cursing noises trying to get up the 3 steps to the door. She was weak. Even her skin was fragile and prone to injury, unlike his majestic coat and resilient flesh. He would have to work hard to protect her. He would be her shield, because she is vulnerable. He would be her fangs because she had none of her own. As the portal opened and he was able to ascend onto the deck of the great water den, she closed it behind him with a yawn. That was fine, preferable even. Star had duties to attend to, and knowing she was safe inside would mean he could focus on his goals. First he checked the marking he had made before bed and saw that it was untouched. Good. The interlopers hadn't gone so far as to cover his mark, but it was time he scouted the perimeter and cleared where his territory lay. A conflict was brewing, a conflict it would be his duty to solve, but he hoped it would not be today. He was growing stronger, and rapidly, but at his current level, he was not sure he could fend off the intrusive pack. Before his scouting mission could begin in earnest, he had to eat. Hopping the great barrier that separated the backyard from the outside world was no great challenge. Ever since the night of the pit, Star had found he could leap much greater heights than before. He wasn't entirely sure how he had gained the power, but he knew it had something to do with Lady Flamewalker's test. The rewards of the master are the rewards of the subordinate. No, that didn't quite cover it. It had been a trial for him as well. Perhaps that is why the subject them both to it. A risky gambit, but it had paid off. Once in the backyard, Star started sniffing around. He wasn't certain why his master had removed the egg layers, but it was presumably for their own safety. That had been his failure. He was the protector. For him to lose one of the egg layers must have proven his inability to protect them. That must be the reason. Still, it was a great loss. There were limited eggs left laying in the grass. He had been consuming 4 a day, but he might have to slow down to preserve them. He was loath to do so. The eggs were nicely sustaining his growth, and he had grown. He was larger than he had been just days ago, larger and stronger as well. But with it came a voracious appetite, and he was sure that if he did not get enough food, the growth would slow. He would not let that happen, even if he must forage further afield. Which brought him back to the territory dispute. Once he had his breakfast of yard eggs, he hopped the wall once more and went about his scouting. Most of his territory markers still smelled of him, but the ones towards the tree line near the dock had been covered by strange scents. Of course it would be these. They must be closest to the strange pack's territory. He worked to cover them each up with his own scent once more. No doubt they would be covered once more by the interlopers come tomorrow. Despite that, his message would be clear. This is the line. Here. I will defend this boundary. However, that meant he would need to back that up with action should it come to it. Star didn't like the idea of killing his own kind, and was hopeful they wouldn't come to that. At worst, he would find the leader and have it out with them. If he won, perhaps he could force the others to leave without more bloodshed. Assuming he could win, of course. That was the trouble. If he could put off fighting for even another couple weeks, he was sure he could win. He wasn't ready yet. Unfortunately, he knew trials did not always wait until one was ready. Lily slowly rose to wakefulness, after having gone back to bed from letting Star out. She really didn't want to get out of bed today. Did she really need to? Well, not really. She should make a decision about the basement. It wouldn't be the end of the world if she didn't get back to La Mancha till tomorrow. Come to think of it, the house and the boat were starting to feel like they needed names too. Okay, the boat was named Beloved Lily, but she'd feel pretty weird saying it. Well, if she didn't go out, what did she want to do around here? Whether she was going into the basement or not, she should probably do some preparation for it. There were some magic stuff she wanted to test around here. Basement. I wonder if there's magic I could use to grow crops. I could probably automatically water them with enough time to fiddle with it at this point. But what about making them grow faster or better? I'd love fresh veggies for life. The girl let out a sleepy sigh, pulled the blankets up a little higher. Magic then. When she woke up, she had just a few simple goals. First, she wanted to know if she could create a circle with a durable physical material with empty nodes. Then fill the glyphs using mana to complete the spell. That way, she wouldn't need to conjure a whole circle every time she cast a spell if she kept easy to use blank circles around in different configurations, at least in her testing zone. That was another thing. She wanted to develop some spell circles that would do safety things. Off the top of her head, keep the temperature within a certain range, or vent off extra mana even if it had to burn it, or so on. If she could get together a number of safety circles, that would only need to do anything if one of her tests went poorly. It'd make testing a lot safer. Finally, she wanted to explore her idea about glyph radicals a lot further. Maybe she could start a sort of glyph alphabet in her notes. She wouldn't always know how to combine the radicals to describe what she wanted to describe, but it would mean that if she encountered spells in the wild, reading them would be a lot easier. And she could try replacing radicals in a glyph 1-to-1 if she had a solid hunch. With her safety circles. Yeah. Oh shoot. And also, she wanted to see if she could use circuit board designs to write conditionals. If only she could figure out how to make a magical transistor. That ought to be first on the list, because if it worked, it'd make writing safety spells way easier. On the other hand, it'd make creating prefab spell circles less convenient. She let out a loud sigh. There's always magic to do. When everyone disappears, I really thought I was going to be working fields or scavenging all day every day. I didn't picture this. Although, truthfully, this was probably better. If she could find magical solutions to a lot of the issues she'd normally have to toil over, that would be perfect. Until then, she had a nearly limitless supply of canned goods and the like if she needed them. Still, every time she learned anything about magic, suddenly she had a billion new formations she wanted to try, and other magical concepts she was thinking of. She didn't have time to try them all, which felt like a crazy problem to have in the face of everything else. Oh well, it was time to get up. She rose and started to get dressed, stuck on the thought of magical transistors. If I can make a transistor, I can use computational logic in my spell formations. But how? It's not like I have magical silicone. I could go for a relay system instead of a transistor, but that's complicated and it'll only work physically. Ugh, why does this have to be so complicated? Think, Lily, think! I need Star. Maybe if I talk it out. Lily fished around in the fridge for an energy drink and found that she was out. But she still had fruit, so she grabbed a snack and headed out onto the deck. Star was sniffing around the tree line, probably seeing if any chicken scraps were left over. Silly hound. She called him and headed to the driveway in front of the house. Lily retrieved her tools, the legendary inscriber of power and abolisher of mistakes, and sat Star down for a lesson. Okay, listen. I need to talk you through this so that hopefully I can figure it out. There's these things called transistors, and I need to make one or something like it for my spells. They're sort of like, She drew a T shape onto the concrete, with the horizontal bit slightly detached from the vertical one. They're sort of like this, but for electricity, see? Okay, you probably don't understand electricity. Let's call it mana, because that's what we will be working with. So mana goes through this sideways bit, right? But it stops in the middle where they all meet. It can't pass through there. That's important. But Lily drew an arrow up the side of the vertical line. Star sniffed the shock, as if that would grant him further understanding. She laughed, appreciating his attempts to follow along. If mana is coming up from this way, it connects the path, see? Then mana can flow normally, as if it were a straight line. It's just a bridge you can turn on and off with a signal. Not too complicated, right? Easy even. But it means we can turn circles or even just parts of them on and off. And that means being able to do that selectively. And it spirals into a bunch of more complicated stuff from there. Lily sighed loudly. Star stopped sniffing around and looked at her intently. It will open the doors to much, much stronger spells. Safer spells too. Better spells. Better magic. Better Lily. So I have to figure it out. The problem is, in a computer, they would use a special material where the lines meet that can only pass along energy when it is powered. But spell circles are made with all kinds of materials, and I don't know of any that might conduct mana only when they have mana. That seems like a stretch, so I gotta figure out another way. Lily sprayed down her diagram and started fresh. She drew a simple circle, and was careful not to connect all the lines so it wouldn't activate. What if I start like this? We can put whole circles inside of a node to nest them. So let's say we're making a transistor node. It needs two inputs, one from the main circle and one to turn it on and off, and it needs one output that will either spit mana out or not. She paused and looked down at her little fox circle. That much was simple enough. Is it? But now what? She needed to actually put things inside the circle to make it do anything. What could provide the functionality she wanted? Well, a capacitor can split the magic that goes into it, right? Send the excess down another path and only pass along a signal when it becomes full. Oh man, this is gonna get math heavy, isn't it? I hate math. Please, for fucking Christ, don't bring in math. I can't handle this as it is. No math. Star bounded over and licked her face. She fell over backwards, sputtering. No, it's fine. It's not that bad. I'm just bad at it. It's okay, boy. I'm gonna be fine. He calmed down a little and she hugged him tightly. There, you can keep me company. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Capacitors have a minimum setting. Found that out in the pit. So let's call that minimum 1 mana, okay? We'll standardize it. For the sake of math and designs. Incidentally, that's about what can fit in my body, apparently. Gonna have to solve that mystery sometime too. Ugh, there's so much shit, Star. I agree. Star licked her again and she giggled. Hugging him closer, she rolled around on the ground, back and forth for a second, lifting him with her. You're heavier. Like, a lot heavier. Gotta be up 10 pounds since we met. Oh, he's a good boy, putting on a ton of muscle and size. You're still puppy-shaped though. What's up with that, huh? Star whooped quietly. Lily smiled and kissed his snout. Yeah, I wish you could talk back to me too, buddy. We'll figure it out sometime, okay? Even if we gotta make you a giant keyboard and teach you how to use it or something. I thought she was gonna turn the dog into a giant keyboard, and I was like, what? Why? But I got it now. Stretching and sitting, Lily returned to the problem at hand. Transistors. Math. Standardization. Please. Okay, so if that is 1 mana, and we can make it pass anything less than 1 mana down one path, and exactly 1 down the other, it feels like there's something there. It's on the tip of my, brain? I'm so close. But if I just put a capacitor in there, set like that, it doesn't account for anything. Sure, we can make it pass excess down this way, when it is powered with 1 mana exactly from there. But it will still pass it down that way even if it's not. I need to make a flow chart. Maybe if I double them up. Help. She pushed Star off of her and got up, suddenly feeling like she was onto something. The inscriber of power flashed across the ground as she started writing in earnest, the flow chart forming quickly. 2 inputs. One of them can pass along any amount of signal, as long as it's unknown value. The other will only pass along 1 mana, or discard it if it's a fraction. All the lines that are for discarding mana can go to a simple version of the Eternal Flame spell that will show visually how much access there is by how bright it gets. Now, if the main input is supposed to be 10 mana as an example, and the switch on or off is on 1 mana, then they both lead to a capacitor set for 11. If it gets 11, it passes the mana along this way. If it's less or there's excess, it goes to the Eternal Flame spell. And, wait, is that it? I'm done? What just happened? She looked over her chart carefully and did some mental testing. If the main input got 8 mana and the switch input got 1, it would all go to excess and be discarded. If main input had 12, a capacitor would lower it to 10, and the main bit would still only pass it along if a switch input still was active. Oh my fucking god. Huh, did I do it? I think I did. Wait, there are some problems, but they're just limitations. Like, I can't pass along a variable amount, only a set number, but that's not so bad, right? Can I make it better? Fuck do I know. Lily was in the zone, I can tell. The world faded out around her. There was only her and the spell. She hadn't felt like this in a long time. The creative energy was really flowing. The rest of the world didn't matter now. She had this. Okay, what if I have a repeating set of capacitors? I can have a maximum signal from the input and just have a capacitor for every whole number after that, and still only pass it along if it gets the +1 from the switch input, right? That way it will pass along any signal strength, as long as I'm willing to draw that many capacitors. If it's less than 20 or so, that's no big deal. Let's hope I'm never dealing with hundreds, huh? Sure. The abolisher of mistakes sprayed away a portion of the diagram, and her inscriber of power flowed back over the spots, filling in a series of circles meant to represent capacitors of decreasing size. If this is a working transistor, though, I should be able to use it to create some simple logic gates, right? Logic gates? At least simple checks like and, or, and not. How would those look? The answer instantly came to her. She could do this. She could apply some simple computational logic using her new tool. It was time for a real circle. A proof of concept. What should she make? The possibilities suddenly felt endless. She had it. The circle came together in her mind in an instant. Simple. She made a circle focused on infusing mana into an object and set it up to the axis would activate a NOT gate that diverted mana from entering the infused glyph. For now, she just grabbed a stone to put in the center and watches as mana started to flow into the circle. Yes, I did it! It will charge up an object to capacity and then overflow will stop. No more exploding pages. I did it, Star! Star? Lily's eyes found Star. He was looking at the house and growling. And as power flowed into her circle, she noticed something else. rather than the magic collecting in her stone and staying there. It was flowing out of the stone and towards. Oh, well, I guess that changes my priorities, huh? The mana was flowing towards the house and down. Basement! Basement, basement. If the basement is full of transistors and fucking. then I'm out. Capacitors is what I was looking for. But okay, hell yeah. Basement time! I'm excited for basement time. What can be in the basement? Maybe I feel it should probably be maybe it's a spooky spot or maybe not. It could be. For some reason I want someone to be there. I want it to be a person because I wanted to meet someone soon. But I doubt that there will be a person in the basement. But I feel like there should at least probably be a magical circle down there, specifically since the mana is going towards the house now as well. So I assume that becomes a spooky spot because whenever there's a circle, she names that a spooky spot. So I assume it's a spooky spot. It's what I'm getting at. Interesting. I'm excited to see what's in the basement next time.